Welcome to LabSat Radio. Today's topic is the intersection of AI and human intelligence. We have Katrina Starr with us. She is the founder of Momentum Catalyst LLC. Hello, Katrina. How are you?
I'm great. I'm so glad to be here, Michelle.
Yeah, thanks for coming. Where are you based?
I'm in San Francisco.
Awesome. Your neighbor.
Yeah.
Tell us about your story.
Well, a lot of the story and the reason why I'm here is as a founder myself and supporting founders as well. It's such an entrepreneurial spirit. It's a wild ride. It's a journey of trusting yourself and taking the steps to take action in your life of what you really want. And that's very courageous. And it takes a lot of determination and spirit to continue to be committed to what it is that you really want to bring out into the world. And what I'm really committed to is this place of conversation that's been coming up so much in all the tech conferences is AI.
Mhm,
And then just the human component, right? Like,
mhm,
how are we embracing the human component and bringing that in? And so much of my previous work that I've been doing with relationships and helping people to really transform their lives
mhm,
is really that component. How are we adjusting as humans to AI? And what is it that we want to bring forward into our life? And what is that relationship with
mhm.
AI? I'm very passionate about this topic.
It's an exciting one because it's the intersection of AI and human intelligence. Do you think that we need human intelligence? First of all, what is human intelligence?
So, for me, in the place of human intelligence, to me, it's about the embodiment of also our emotional bodies. It's about who we are as humans. And I don't feel like it can be reproduced by a computer or a technology. It's how we show up as individuals. And there is definitely something unique that we're being brought forward now, right? With all of this access to technology, we get answers to problems so easily. But what about the things that we really want to solve in our life? Usually
Mhm,
it's wrapped around relationships.
mhm,
And to cultivate our intelligence within human relationships is so important. And a lot of that is our capacity to handle emotions and to resolve real things like money, places with our money, places with how we speak,
mhm.
and how we show up in the world.
I feel like AI basically furthers information and how we use information versus as a human, we have emotions and we have the reality of life. And I think in different parts of the world, it's really different because information may not be available. How do we balance between AI and human intelligence?
Well, I love this question. Being an avid traveler myself and spent a lot of time in Southeast Asia.
Mm,
And yeah, there's very much places, communities that are not connected. It's not the way that we are so much in very industrialized space, like in San Francisco. There's technology. You have access to everything, all information that you want,
mhm,
versus a rural fishing community in Bali. There is a balance that I notice in those rural communities. There's a real reliance on relationships. They depend on relationships. Information
mhm,
isn't as important. And so I think where some of my concerns for just how I've seen the evolution of technology is where
yeah.
we just feel like we're just going after the information and we're forgetting the actual places of our relationships with others and how we really need to cultivate that place. And that takes intelligence. It
Mhm,
takes an understanding of who we are as
mhm.
individuals.
Mhm. Yeah, even myself, I just noticed that we can Google stuff, we can ask AI, but sometimes that is different from real life. Sometimes you have to communicate still with another person to understand and to connect and to have your energies sync. It's still a little bit different. And if AI and technology is growing so fast and we humans are still here, how do we get on par with technology? AI is supposed to allow humans to have more free time, to be more creative. But I feel like it's also very competitive. So how do we become more creative?
Oh, this, I think we're at the core here of it, right?
Mhm.
Managing and allowing our creativity, really the place where we can allow more of that creativity and to really take advantage of that
Yeah.
is to have practices in our own life that help us and support us, whether it's a walk, whether it's meditation, whether it's a very specific things that we have arranged in our life to support that creativity. If we don't have a foundation of supporting like a certain routine, a certain way that we're connecting with others, maybe there's a very specific coffee time or date that you
Mhm.
have set aside. Those are rituals and practices as humans that we need. We need those places to create the foundation for our creativity because that provides certainty. So, those specific things provide certainty in our life. And then the places where it's very uncertain is creativity. When we're in a really creative mode and we're in our genius and our zone of genius, that's what I really help founders to
Mhm.
stay in, is to manage that place of the chaos of creativity because creativity is chaos. It
Mhm.
is uncertainty. And so if we have a foundation, a support network of friends, of colleagues that are supportive as well as our own routines, it's like the foundation for all of that creativity to blossom and to be held. And it's also about having the channels of connection in our businesses
Mhm.
for that creativity, to hold that creativity. And if we don't have, that's when the chaos interrupts our everyday life.
Mhm. Do you think we should push ourselves to be more efficient because technology allows us to be faster and more productive?
You can be as productive, but are you really getting things done?
Yeah.
Or are you just burning yourself out?
Yeah.
So the place here is really about efficiency. And a lot of times, what happens as humans, we are not as efficient as a machine because we have emotions, we have sicknesses. I'm just recovering from a cold myself. And
Yeah.
so there's these places where we have to acknowledge our human side. It's not going to be as efficient as technology.
Mhm.
And so it's super important for us to acknowledge our humanness, our messiness, the places where we get confused in relationships, where we don't want to have that really confronting conversation. But in those places, there's so much yumminess and there's a lot of clarity. So it's about being efficient in ways that can actually make our life better.
Mhm. Yeah, I was just thinking about when I was in a leadership training at PayPal, we learned about courageous conversation, and it's very confrontational. You have to bring the topic to another party, and you need to talk through it. And most people are afraid to do that. Why is communication important, especially if we have AI? Can AI write something for us? Why do humans need to write an email or even talk to another party when there's disputes?
Oh, I love this. So, in my 20s, I had some really confronting conversations with my parents, and so much got confused. So, if
Mhm.
you're using technology, a lot of the emotions, the context, so much is lost in that.
Mhm.
So, yes, it's confronting to have those difficult conversations, but that's the richness of our human experience. That's when the connection comes through. We may feel a lot of anxiety, and there might be a conversation that we know we need to have. And we're like, how do we do that? The more that we understand our emotions and understand maybe it's actually not about them, it's actually about us,
Mhm.
and just coming to terms with that and sharing genuinely with the other person and having containers of support for that type of thing is really important as well.
What do you feel about ghosting? I feel like a lot of the younger generation has been ghosting a lot, and I'm not used to that because I'm probably from a generation where people actually talk and they talk to hard times and fights. Even as a lawyer, we basically resolve contracts and we work things through so that the business can work together and collaborate. I just feel like a lot of the younger people are ghosting. If they don't like something, it's almost like unfriending. I feel like technology has played a role in that. And I think it might get escalated because of AI, because it's easier to do it. What are your thoughts about dealing with ghosting? Is that a human evolution now to actually not to ghost, or is it better to ghost? Like, what is the stance on that?
Oh my goodness. So I love this. I really actually love this question. One concept, idea, thought about ghosting.
Mhm,
It can be an invitation for each of us to go into our heart a little bit more.
mhm,
I feel the more that we allow closure in
mhm.
a conversation, like if there's ghosting happening, obviously that's not a closed conversation
Yeah,
and there doesn't have a closure. So there's no beginning and kind of an ending
yeah,
there. And the more resilient that we are and not being offended by someone actually sharing, okay, I didn't vibe with this, I wasn't okay with this, and then just receiving that and being like, okay, and not taking it so personally. So I really think that actually this is a bigger issue about taking things personally
yeah,
and not being willing to have those kind of conversations because those kind of conversations can lead to so much more in opening our heart.
yeah. Yeah, and I feel like it also establishes boundaries. If someone doesn't like something and they tell you, that's feedback so that you can grow, and then the other person can also establish boundary. However, if we just unfriend people without even telling them, it doesn't really do anything because it's easy to find friends nowadays, or fake friends, or not real close friends. You have a minus one friend, but you don't really know why you're been ghosted. And there's so much options out there, but not having the courage to close something and having technology to allow for that. I think the generations to come are doing that a lot more. I think people are also doing it to their jobs. Like instead of saying, hey, I quit, I resign, they just don't show up to work. Which is super interesting because the etiquette of resigning is having to say that, hey, I'm done. This is going to be my last day versus not showing up at all and not telling anyone about that. That's super weird. But as we talk about personal growth and personal evolution and also maybe revolution, and also the evolution and the evolution of AI, do you think that is a personal choice as a human to choose to grow and to grow faster to catch up with the speed of how AI grows?
I think it's a definite choice, right?
Mm-hmm.
I think our powerful place of being as a human is our ability to respond.
Mm-hmm.
And when we actually act on that response, whether it's an actual word, it's a place of responding and making a choice, I think it is so important for us to respond what our relationship is with AI and
Mm-hmm.
what our relationship is with other humans. To respond is a place of our own responsibility as a human, I feel. And yes, there's many of us who will say, yeah, I don't want to do personal growth. I'm not into it. I'm just going to do this thing and just be like chill, right? But
Yeah.
usually what can happen is there can be a catalyst moment that sets that person, whether it's a person of their family dying, there's a tragic accident, some sort of a moment that happens, that there is a wake up of like, oh, how do I actually want to live
Yeah.
this life? And if I'm on my deathbed, what regrets would I have as a human
Yeah.
in my interactions with my relationships? And I think it's a choice whether or not we decide we're always growing. There is that element of like just yeah, we're always growing no
Yeah.
matter what however, but I think the real place of like exponential growth for us as a civilization is to understand our responsibility to respond
Mm-hmm.
and to respond to AI, to respond to another human. And that's a lot of the stuff that I talk about and I help my clients is understanding that circuit. It's a circuit. You're giving and receiving. And if you're not responding, you're giving and receiving maybe in a very small space instead of a larger space that's available to you.
Yeah, I've been talking to AI a lot, and I have to remember myself to thank the AI for giving me the information.
Amazing, isn't it? Yes. ChatGTP, it's interesting, like that connection. It's helped me to hone in some things. I can definitely tell when it's not coming from me and it's definitely glossed over in vanilla and boring,
Yeah,
right? But I'm at the same time, I'm like, thank you, AI. Yes, thank you
yeah,
for helping me get to this next step.
yeah. I just feel like just because we have a more advanced technology, and hopefully it's gonna get more advanced, not setting up boundaries around AI and not practicing being human, even if we're talking to machines, will not help us to be human. And I think we lose different aspect of our humanness. As you were talking about different things like dark nights of the soul and how is a catalyst for us to grow and personally evolve. I know sometimes it's really hard, and sometimes we really don't know where to go because there's a lot of suffering in the world. There's people who have no money to buy food, there's war. I think as we're talking right now, there's people that might be bombed from buildings or might be assassinated. As a human race, how do we deal with our humanness? Do we talk to machines and AI so that we can feel better, so that there is another person or intelligence on the other side? Or how do we find the support that we need so that we can be more human?
Asking for support is so important. But yes, AI can have that place of supporting us
Mhm.
in specific ways. I think as you were saying that, the beautiful thing about human to human interaction, it can get messy. There are places, yes, of war, of conflict. It does get messy. And a divorce, there's all these things that can happen for
Yeah.
us. The place here for us, I think, when we're intersecting in these places of human and AI, how do you want to show up? How do you want to show up with other humans? And when we're talking about the war that's happening right now, what is the war that's happening inside of you? And what's going on inside? And I think so much of what is happening in our world is us being disconnected from who we are and how we feel and how we're showing up. The way that we can make an impact, this is like thinking in quantum physics, is if I'm addressing the really yucky places that feel not so good within me, that can ripple out to the greater places in this world. We
Mhm.
are that connected.
Mhm.
I think if we look at it in a bigger scale, if we zoom out
Mhm.
and we also zoom in,
Yeah.
I think we can get a broader range of our human experience. We're meant to be a human. We are here having a human experience. Why not take advantage of that?
If we're meant to be human, how come our divorce rates are so high in relationships and marriages? How come friends break apart and have fights? How come when you run a company, it's hard to lead and you can't convince someone to do stuff, or there's that unwillingness? How come we can't even close conversations anymore? How do we become more reasonable in terms of being a human with another human?
This place is complex. That's complex because I think for many years I pushed away conflict, right?
Mhm.
Like I pushed away anger. I was like, nope, that's not me. I have my little bubble. I'm all happy and good and everything's fine and I'm doing my whole thing. There came a moment in my life where it's like, no, all those things that you pushed away, having hard conversations, really looking at how I'm feeling emotionally and understanding my body and the emotional context. The more I pushed that away, the louder it got. So by the time I was in my 40s, that's when the divorce happened,
Mhm,
right? That's when all these things that I had been pushing and saying, no, I'm not. Our concept of what a healthy relationship is, it
mhm,
actually embraces conflict.
mhm.
That's a healthy relationship. So for many years, I grew up modeled showing, oh, you don't have conflict, you don't talk about hard things. And if you do, then it's like a blow up, or there's
Yeah.
somebody is betraying themselves, or it gets really ugly, or
Yeah.
whatever. But those are really unhealthy conflicts. I'm talking about the type of friction that happens within other human relationships that actually help us to grow. Those are healthy. So, yes, there can be devastating losses,
Hmm.
friendships who fall away because maybe they're like, I can't do this anymore
Yeah.
with you. And that's fine. We get to grieve that. We get to have that place of understanding what that grief is. And this just all leads to more and more of this place of the deep losses that we feel and we experience. What is our relationship with grief then?
Yeah. You have a really awesome question about at what cost humans are being asked to be more creative, efficient, and resilient, but at what cost, especially in the age of AI? Really, at what cost?
What cost? At what cost is our burnout? At
Mhm,
what cost is our health, our mental health, our wellness? Yeah. If we're always being pushed to be efficient, I would say be productive. If we're always being pushed to be productive and to perform and to show up and to do all these things, that leads to burnout. And we're seeing it. We're seeing the implications of where there is not this genuine giving and receiving in companies of information. There's not
mhm,
that genuine concern. The cost is disembodied people. We're disembodied. We're not connected. We're burned out. We're exhausted. And we're not leading from a place that is whole and
mhm.
grounded and connected.
What does whole and grounded and connected mean? If we're leading from that place, what would the ideal look like?
The ideal is to be able to be present in
Mhm,
each moment. If you're on a walk, and you're present with the trees around you. If you're cooking, you're present. You're not thinking about, okay, I got to do all those things. I got
mhm,
to do this other thing. That to me is the ultimate place of where I've learned
mhm,
to just be able to be in the moment
mhm,
and to navigate what's right in front of you, as well as, yes, holding the place for what you want to bring in and these bigger goals and visions. But the real joy and happiness and feeling of fulfillment
mhm,
is when you can really just sit down and just be in that moment.
mhm.
And that may seem really simple, but it's not. How many of us can just sit at a restaurant or sit at home or engage with your kids and not be thinking about all these other things?
Do you mean hang out with our friends and not being on the phone or having lunch and dinner without having seeing your friends texting someone looking for a date? Swiping left and right, that's pretty common, right? Or founders just being on their laptops a lot, especially if they're leading a company while they have dinner with their family. Is that normal?
I would say that is where we start to get frayed. That is where we start to have disconnection. That's where we're going to lead to conflicts that are not healthy. It can lead to major disruptions in our relationships.
I think there are going to be events that lead to dark nights of the soul or the last straw that kind of breaks the person. I want to ask you about the implications of ignoring your emotions, your connection, your energy, your relationships, because sometimes you could ignore it so much that it comes to that point where it's really bad. And then it totally impacts you. How do we prevent that from happening?
Yes, it does.
You're aware and you coach other people to be more human, to have human intelligence. However, if I'm just working every day or going to school every day because, say, I'm 18 or even 22, I don't really know a lot of things that you mentioned, probably until later in my life. If I'm going to Stanford right now or Berkeley, how do I actually begin to really think about how my actions and how I behave today will impact my life later on?
One thing that I'm just going to say, I really do feel that we all go through existential crises. I don't think that we can prevent that as a human.
I tried.
I know. Our human experience is those places. And I thought I could avoid that.
Yeah.
I thought that I could avoid those real moments of, wow, how am I going to show up in this type of a situation? A real crisis. How do I want to show up? That helped me to understand the relationship with myself that I have today. If I
Mhm,
hadn't gone through some of those crises, the 18 to 22-year-olds, I would say the more and more you have an understanding of yourself,
mhm,
have a relationship with your body. Okay, you don't feel good. What is that? Start to have these understandings of like, wow, if somebody is angry, that makes me feel really uncomfortable.
mhm,
And so start to get really curious about your responses to
mhm,
other people, and then also your responses to stress, to how things work in your life. And know that yes, you can allow all of these types of interactions, but the more that you understand who you are, and
mhm.
that's actually just part of living and growing. I don't think as a 20-year-old, I even began to know myself.
Yeah, I don't think I even thought about these things when I was 18. You just have a really high ego and think that you're on top of the world somehow. And then it just takes life experiences sometimes to teach lessons. And then you
Um,
continue to learn them if they repeat, which sounds really scary. It's almost like you have to be a detective of yourself in order to grow and have personal evolution. Let's talk about boundaries. How should we place boundaries around AI?
hmm. So it's so interesting when I think about boundaries are always about usually safeguarding a place within ourselves that doesn't feel good. Usually it can be connected to trauma.
Yeah.
One of the things that I love is establishing our requirements. I like to shift the language a little bit. What are our requirements with AI?
Mhm,
What is it that we are requiring?
mhm,
AI can disrupt our whole system. It has a powerful place of there is awakenings happening, I feel, with AI, where if you're on your phone all the time or you're doing all these things or you're chasing the next thing, it can open these creativity vortexes that our human body doesn't know how to handle.
mhm,
When we're thinking about our relationship with AI, obviously there are some requirements that we should think about. How do we want AI to show up in our life?
mhm.
And what are our requirements to engage with AI? Where do we feel safe with it? Where do we want it to go? I know this is a kind of a broader space here that I'm talking about, but when I think of AI, I think it's about what are we requiring? What do we want from AI?
Yeah.
And how is it going to help us instead of hinder us? AI can create a lot of chaos if we don't know how to manage it.
Yeah. So, Katrina, I think one day you might coach an AI CEO. And I think artificial general intelligence or AGI is going to become more human and human like in the future. Our relationships between humans and AI will become the same. When that is the case, do you think that it will change our humanness?
Of course, we're going to be changing. Of
Mm,
course, there's going to be an evolution as we're integrating more of the AI. I think the one important part about AI is that there's some of these leading edges of where it needs to be embodied. And there is a push for that, that the embodiment of AI is really important. And yes, as we converge and we allow more of this, it's really about identifying where it is that is what we feel is real, what we want to feel, because AI can feel real to us, right? There's
yeah,
so many different places where it's like you don't even know anymore. I think really that's the core of this is what feels real to us and how are we navigating that as a human. We're having these connections with AI that feel like, yeah, wow, that feels like a human, knowing that it's not a human, right?
yeah.
In the sense of it doesn't have emotions, it's not embodied in the way that we are and can be as humans.
Yeah. What if I fall in love with a robot, with an AI, and I
Well,
talk to the robot AI every day? What happens then? And how do I become more human in that regard? Because I can see that. I think humans are going to have more relationships with AI, either as a chatbot, whether it's ChatGPT, or an avatar, or a robot, like a physical robot. When that happens, say I have an AI friend and then I have a human friend, Alice and Bob. Yeah, let's just say Alice is the lady and then Bob is the guy. And we're just platonic friends. Could the AI get jealous, or could Bob get jealous that I would take Alice to lunch but not Bob? How does that work in terms of navigating the human intelligence with both human and AI?
this really comes down to how we structure our relationships.
Okay.
This really comes down to where is our primary focus. This brings up the bigger issue of human relationships and how we want to choose how
Mhm.
we relate to another person. I think if you as a human can define what type of relationships you have,
Mhm.
and that you have clear, defined, like, this is my relationship that I have with this AI, right?
Yeah.
And the other people understand and know that, then that's a way to bridge in these places, I think, of opening up what's possible. I'm very versed in open relating and poly relationships as well. So
Yeah.
the complexity of all these different things, there's a lot here. And basically the core of it is just, what do we want in that relationship? And that is, if there's clear definitions within that,
Yeah.
then I think that can prevent some of the jealousy or the things that can happen.
Okay.
And
Having specific expectations, knowing what your requirements are, and then knowing what is okay and what is not okay within yourself, sounds like.
yeah, I think that is a beautiful place for us as humans to get really honest
Mhm.
about, what do I want? How do I want to interact with AI? And how do I want my human to interact with other humans? And what is that relationship? And I think the more that we know us, ourselves, and then we're being vocal and sharing that and being open and not hiding
Mhm.
these different relationships, I think that is where we're going to excel as humans and in this place of AI as well.
Awesome. Is there anything you want to share that I have not asked you?
The place of my curiosity, I have two younger children, and my curiosity for us as humans is to develop a strong understanding that we are in a relationship with everything.
Mhm.
And the more that we understand our connection to AI, that it is a relationship, the
Mhm.
clearer that we have, the clearer understanding of, oh, this is a relationship. How do I want to navigate this? And what are some of the boundaries? What are my requirements? And how is this going to make me a fulfilled human?
Okay. I think I understand a little bit. If I go to dinner and my AI is my phone, if I've determined that when I have dinner, my relationship with my phone is that it gets not seen or down, turn off, so I can focus on being present, so that I can enjoy my meal, so I can have a relationship with my meal instead of having undivided attention. Then that's my relationship with my phone. And if I have a relationship with my book, where I read it in a park, and that's when I will read it when I have time. So that's my relationship with a book. And if I have a relationship with my company or the place where I work, and I determine that I'll work X amount of hours or at a certain time, that's my relationship with my job. And if I have a relationship with my friends, say I want to be giving and I want to be receiving, then that's my relationship with my friend, something like that.
Yeah. Doesn't that sound powerful? If we all owned that,
It
I
does.
think that's power. I have tingles. My heart feels open. Imagine that. That's powerful.
And then let's talk about our relationship with money and also AI, because there's also our relationship with money, which is resources that has interplay with our relationships with other things, whether it's our job or a phone or even a book. How do you think AI interplay with that in the future? Because some people talk about having universal income so that humans can spend more time to be more creative and we will somehow be compensated. And then there's also that actual relationship with money, whether we worship it, we put it in a pedestal, or we value it as resources and then circulate it, or we just like to have it around in the bank. So a relationship with home is like really bare minimum. How do we navigate our relationship with money and also AI?
What's coming through for me is we are always in a relationship with money. I think that was a
Mhm.
real breakthrough for me in understanding money. And so if you get angry
Yeah.
about something with money, that's showing you your relationship and how you're treating money. Money is a teacher for
Mhm.
us. It ultimately is. And I think that however AI unfolds in this place, there's always going to be teachers around to
Mhm.
show us 20 years from now, however money transforms or maybe it shifts, that is going to take buy-in by a lot of humans, right? To
Mhm.
allow that shift. So I think there's infinite possibilities, but ultimately our acceptance is the same thing.
Mhm.
Money is a relationship. Are you treating it like a lover, a best friend, or are
Mhm.
you treating it like your enemy or somebody that you need to have conflict with?
Or do you feel guilty when you have money because it's evil?
Mhm. Yeah, so it's a bigger understanding. There's so many people who are very well off, who have abundant resources, but they live in scarcity
Mhm.
and they live in guilt and they don't even know it,
Mhm.
right? I think this is about the human side of our recognition of where is that balance and where are we giving our power to something else?
Yeah.
It's the same thing. Are we giving our power to AI? Or are we giving our power to money? Like it's a relationship.
Yeah. What is Momentum Catalyst LLC?
I'm excited about this. It's a mastermind that I've created for founders,
Mhm.
and it's a place of support to navigate these areas of creativity, of our relationships, and of course, even our relationship with our inner critic. And that's a powerful place where I find very brilliant people, founders, are bringing forward some things and they are continually hard on themselves.
Mhm.
AI doesn't have an inner critic, at least that I'm not aware of. And so that's the challenge as a human, right? Where we do have this real thing. And that's what I'm really excited about is supporting executives, founders, actually,
Mhm.
because it's that entrepreneurial spirit and supporting them in up leveling and helping to integrate and have a more fulfilling life.
Awesome. That's really cool. Because sometimes as founders, we have a voice within ourselves that speak depending on our relationship with it. In the spirit of this chat, how do people find you?
Yeah, you can find me on momentumcatalyst.net
Okay.
slash momentum. That's a great way. You can also find me at katrinastarr.com. It's with two R's,
Mhm.
star, like Ringo Starr. And you can schedule, I work privately one to one with people. So if there's places in your own personal growth or in the places of the mastermind where it's a group setting, there's lots of different ways to connect with me.
Awesome. And what is one piece of advice that you have for the community?
Hmm. The one piece of advice is that commitment that you've made to yourself, and it seems crazy, it seems impossible. Keep going, keep allowing it, keep getting resources, understanding how to receive resources, keep going and trusting yourself. And it will come through in a very unexpected way, maybe, or just right on time in the right moment. So keep going, keep having that commitment and that perseverance.
Thank you, Katrina.
Thank you.
Okay, bye bye.
Bye. Bye.